Sherri, welcome to the Goats of Growth.
Thank you, Jason. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for showing up and being here.
I'm here.
So let me just ask you the big picture question. Something, by the way, I will say that I did not share with you earlier, so get ready for it. Um, which is, what is an operating partner? What does an operating partner do, broadly speaking, at a private equity firm?
That is a great question to get started with, and I love it. And we get asked that question all the time. I mean, you think about you have these investment firms that are investing in companies, and these are like they're the jewels of what they're trying to diamonds in the rough or whatever it may be. So they want to invest with people, expertise, resources, anything that could be used to help the portfolio companies grow.
Mm,
So the whole role of the operating partner is born from that. That's the genesis of it. Is like,
mm,
why do you want to have operating partners? And there are different kinds of firms, different kinds of focus in different markets, and they may have portfolio manage. They may call it different things. Large cap PE firms may call it different than mid market growth equity firms. But the general gist of it is having somebody who has expertise that can really sit toe to toe with all the different CEOs, the C suite of each of the portfolio companies, and
mm.
help them grow. And different PE firms have different ways of doing that, but the genesis of the operating partner is really all about protecting the investment and helping the portfolio companies grow.
That makes sense. And when you say the word expertise, obviously this is a go-to-market focused show, of course. So immediately my mind goes there, and obviously with your background, that's your expertise as well. Are there operating partners that have other that focus on other function areas besides go-to-market, like
Oh, good
general
question.
account?
Yeah, in fact, absolutely. There's, we're, as you said, I'm like, the go-to-market for the go-to-market center of excellence at Edison, for instance.
Yep.
But there are other disciplines, right? People
Mhm.
that are CFOs that can speak to other CFOs of our portfolio companies. So finance and administration is a COE. You could
Mhm.
have product and technology. So chief product officers or people who are expert as at engineer, VP of engineering, or that, the whole technical aspect of a development organization. Again, you want to match expertise with the expertise across the aisle, so to speak, in the portfolio company. So
Mhm.
product and technology, finance and administration, go to market, other ones, leadership. We have a discipline on leadership as a whole, and we have governance as a whole,
Mhm.
really people issues, things like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a whole gamut of different types of disciplines. And there are some PE firms that are focused on specific industries too.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
for instance, cybersecurity might be one industry, and there are PE firms that just focus on that. We focus on cybersecurity too as one of many things that we look at. But
Yeah, and so just the broad picture, it's almost like it's not just investing your capital or even positioning yourselves. Let's say, for instance, if it's in a competitive situation, it's not just the capital; it's human capital as well. And from your side, from the private equity firm side, it's investing your money, but investing your human capital and energy and all the knowledge to help that company that you just invested in succeed. Right?
correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really interesting is I've seen a couple of different variations on the theme.
Mm,
So there are some PE firms that they don't just invest, they don't just have an operating partner, they'll have like a whole program. I mean, it could be very regimented and very programmatic. This is not what Edison does, but this is what,
mm,
we have a lot of expertise. We never believe in shoving anything down anyone's throat,
mm.
so to speak.
Yeah.
But there are some PE firms that do have a program, and they want you to follow that program. So, if you are an entrepreneur and you sign up for a PE firm like that, you got to know you're in for something like that. But
Let me. Mhm.
primarily operating partners, like for what I do, we're very much more, it's the art of persuasion, not the art of force.
Yeah, right. Which one would argue there is no art to force. It's just it's just blunt
Brute
force or
force.
whatever. Right? Exactly, brute or blunt force. That's right. Let me ask you another question as it pertains to this. Is there such a thing then as an operating team? In other words, where your go to market, somebody else's,
Yeah.
finance or somebody else's, and do you operate together as a team in a way, let's say, for instance, where you're focused on a cohort of assets or portfolio companies, or how does that how
Right.
does that work? Yeah.
Perfect example is at Edison, where I am.
Okay.
We have a whole team of operating partners. It's a platform. We actually call it, it's the Edge. It's our Edge, the
Wow.
Edison Edge.
Okay. Yeah.
And I love it. I love this team. They are the best people to work with, the best, they're gurus in their craft.
Hmm.
They're functional experts. I think what Edison did well is, we picked people that really understand their craft.
Hmm.
So, I've got myself and two others that are in the go-to-market center of excellence. And then we have individual in product and technology. I mean, these are people I look up to for their, now they were CEOs of companies. They started companies. They've sold companies. They've been on boards. They've been, masters of technology, for instance, masters of finance, working with, the finance field is very important to have somebody that can go toe to toe with other, chief financial officers. So this is our team. We've got, I don't know, like 5, 6 people, no, maybe more, 7 people, whatever, on this team.
Hmm.
And it is really critical, a critical value, the value creation platform from Edison, for instance.
So let's talk about that, right? You specifically. You
Yes.
mentioned picking great people who really understand their craft. Obviously, they picked you because you really understand your craft as well. Couple things. Tell me, why did you pick them? Why did you pick going from a CRO to an operating partner, essentially going from operator to operating partner? Talk to me about that particular move, that particular journey.
Great question. So I actually did not abandon being a CRO. I'm still a CRO. I have one of these weird portfolio careers where I'm still, fractional CRO, go to market strategic advisory work,
Mhm.
and I'm an operating partner with Edison. And I was so fortunate. I got a phone call. I just got a phone call one day, and that's how it just kind of tripped into it.
Wow.
The senior partner at the firm called me up and said, Sherri, I've been trying to figure out a way to get you over here. How do we do this? And she was telling me about the operating partner role. And I was so naive at the time. I didn't really even know about it. I didn't even know what the role was at the
Mhm.
time. I said, tell me about this. And honestly, I was so excited to jump in. And it really just happened that way. It was a matter of, I was a CRO at the time at a company that was a portfolio company.
Okay.
And that's how I got recognized. I was doing probably, and I know I did really good work, and it must have been recognized and and that was actually 2 years earlier. So I got a phone call 2 years later by
Okay.
this senior partner saying, hey, want to see if you would be interested in coming over here. So that's how it all started.
And so let me ask you this: when you say 2 years earlier, had you still been in that particular operating role, or you had moved on to another operating role, but
I
that
had
senior
moved
partner?
on yes, yeah, interesting. And I had moved on at the time. But you know what, Jason? This is like, we're in sales, we're in the relationship business. You keep your relationships up. And so I was
Mhm.
always in touch with this individual. She's an amazing leader in our field. And I
Mhm.
had so much respect for her. So I was always in touch with her. And I guess, when you're in touch with people and you have relationships, that's what happens. You get phone calls.
Yep.
And it's so interesting. I was thinking about this last night when I was thinking about what I was going to share with you today.
Mhm.
And I thought, you know what? I've been fortunate in my career. I don't think I've ever really had to go search for a job except for when I just got out of college. It was so strange. It's always been someone referred me to somebody, or I just happened to know somebody. They needed somebody. They called me first. I was very lucky. Only now, it's just actually just happened. One of my gigs just ended. And so now I'm starting to look, and it's very foreign to me, but it's a relationship business. So yeah, you know, people remember you. They remember you because you're in touch with them. They remember you because of the work you did.
Well, I always say the harder you work, the luckier you get, right? That's the way
Yeah.
it works. And it's part of, and it sounds cliche, but it's obviously true. When you first come out of college, your network is only so big. When after you've been in the career and you've grown and you've made the kind of impact that you made in particular on that portfolio company, obviously your network is now your net worth, as they say, right? It becomes one of those a reality that people
Absolutely.
always talk about, you know?
I feel like, I get excited about transformational growth. That's just the
Hmm.
whole thing that
Hmm.
I focus on in my career. And I think that transformational growth comes from who, not how. It's the who,
Yeah.
not how. It's the people that you choose. I think you talk about this a lot. It's the people you choose, the quality of the people you connect with, the quality of the relationships, and people will remember you. And that's how can really make big things happen. Is who do you surround yourself with in your team, whether
Hmm.
it's an executive leadership team or whether it's an operating partner team like the
Hmm.
Edison Edge, which is top of the line masters in their class.
Let me ask you about the impact that you had on the Portco that senior partner was basically compelled that person to call you as an example, right? Tell me about that. What was the impact, the company that you were working with, and what was the where were they when you first got there?
Yeah,
What was the result of your work there?
this is a firm. It just so happened again. It just a relationship brought me into this firm. I
Mm-hmm.
knew the CEO. They were about ready to hire a CRO, and then at the last second, whatever happened, that CRO bagged out.
Okay.
And I was in touch with this CEO. He calls me up and said, Sherri, I could really use your help. Can you come in? And this is how my career as a fractional CRO got started. So
Mm.
I said, sure, I can come in. I can do this. So basically, they were growing, but they didn't know how to scale. And that is my expertise.
Mm.
Coming into an organization that might be anywhere between 7 to 10 million in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And, the goal is they're trying to get to 100 million within a few years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how do you do that? It's the same playbook doesn't work. What got them to where they were is not going to work. They're international, they were expanding. Um, so I came in there and really in short order, I was there to fill in like a gap. I think I wasn't going to take over the formal permanent role. I was just going to help them bridge the gap, help them grow. They were trying to attract more capital from another PE firm. So the goal was get more help them with the fundraising, grow, and build out this team and create a strategy that's going to set them up for future growth.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up doing that. We ended up being a majority owner. Private equity firm, very large private equity firm, came in addition to Edison's stake in the company.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the CEO told me, he said, you were absolutely critical to helping me get that done. We grew like 200% revenue, like within 6 months. It was outrageous. It was crazy. But I mean, I pulled every trick out of the book, in terms of building marketing and sales alignment. We got teams to work together where they weren't, where they were in silos before. Um, got a lot of short-term revenue that came in, oversaw the strategy with sales, marketing, customer success, um, increased marketing contribution to revenue by like
Mm-hmm.
48%, something, much bigger than where they were. So,
Mm-hmm.
really started pulling the whole thing together.
How did you make those strategic decisions? In other words, you didn't just come in and say, "Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to align marketing and sales. I'm going to, increase marketing
Yeah.
as it pertains to spend." Like, how did you start to begin to make those decisions, especially when you're trying to grow so
Yeah.
fast as money?
It's interesting. And it might have been one of the reasons why I stood out as a CRO to the investor, the senior investor over at Edison. I didn't just one day think, oh, we have to do this. We have to bring
Yeah.
everybody together and do these types of actions. I did an assessment, and I think any good CRO would do that. You walk in and you interview a lot of people, and you really understand what's working, what's not working. Where are you in terms of your vision and your mission and your purpose, and even some of the basic core things. Where's your big, hairy, audacious goal? And what strategies have you put in place? Why is it not working? Why are you losing? Why are you winning? So all the different things that you put into an assessment, and you come out of that. And I did an assessment. I had a partner with me. Part of my consulting firm is the name Growth Terra. So I had a partner, Janine, who's wonderful. And she and I did this together. We did the assessment. We presented the results to the CEO. And as a result of what we learned, we said, here are the gaps. And if you really need to grow, you're going to need to address A, B, C, D. And that's how we put the whole strategy in place. And we were very lucky. He was great. He just, endorsed what our plan was pretty much. So it's good.
That's awesome. I love this stuff, man.
I do too. I love talking. I could talk all day about it.
So let me ask you this: is there anything that sticks out that you learned that made the biggest sort of impact or informed your decision the most to make a decision that says, "Wow, like holy crap, I can't believe that this isn't happening. This needs to be done immediately." And how? Yeah.
You mean at that particular
Yeah.
portfolio company?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were, there just was, I think, a lack of cohesion and understanding how they could actually go after key segments in the market
Mm-hmm.
and really blow the heck out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, and this is going it's going a few years back, but I remember, again, it was this whole thing of sales and marketing, just missing out on opportunities, marketing, bringing in one type of lead, sales, not really getting enough leads. How do we bring that together? And I actually, brought the VP of marketing and brought the sales team together, and we started coming up with strategies
Mm-hmm.
short term that actually could generate leads like within a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that. I mean, this happens everywhere I go. Like every portfolio company I work with, on the as an operating partner, every company I'm a CRO, you do the analysis and you go, what is it that's going to make a difference here? You start to realize there are a lot of patterns that start to emerge that are very similar, particularly this size of firm is, trying to scale. They haven't scaled before. They didn't really have somebody with my kind of skill set to guide them. And you typically will see that a lot of times these firms are missing out on not understanding who their ICP is.
Mm-hmm.
That is a huge miss. Huge miss. If you're going after the wrong ICP, you're wasting an entire sales revenue team resources. So to me, the core is ICP, of course, mission, vision, but ICP, who is your customer? Why are they the most profitable customer? What is their lifetime customer value? Why are they giving you that lifetime customer value? And go for them. And what's the key message that you have to deliver to that ICP? And then understanding who the personas are. I can't tell you enough. Almost every company I go into, I have to fix something there. That's number one.
Yep.
And then there's also, either a lack of demand gen, or the marketing is not aligned properly with what sales needs. There's needs to be common goals, common metrics, common processes. There's lack of process. There's salespeople all over the place that maybe don't have good discipline. They might be winging it, and some people are great and some are not. There's a lack of measurement, Jason. So I'm throwing these things out at you. These are the common things that I see everywhere. And you would think people would know, how to implement, but they don't. I think at this sweet spot, like it's like the mid-market, it's basically the company that might be Series A, Series B, they're trying to
Yep.
grow,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't have these things locked down, and they need somebody who knows how to do this to actually set up, create the discipline, create the process, capture the data, analyze the data, get insights from the data, and then help them grow.
Yeah, they've figured out some things, but not enough things to get them to grow beyond where they need to be. And that's when you come in. Let me ask you this. As it pertains to the people and all this assessing that you're doing, how much of it is a where people are playing out of position, or you don't have the right people on the bus and that needs to change? Like how often do you need to
Oh,
sort of yeah
all the time.
yeah okay, yeah
That's really interesting. Good question, because a lot of times you don't know. You don't know until you
hmm
get there. I
right
always say it's a challenge still. There are companies where I was hired in as a CRO, and I knew immediately, even before I got there, that they had the wrong CMO there. I knew
mm-hmm.
it
Okay.
because I could tell. You can tell things like, well, this person might be more B2C oriented when you really need B2B.
hmm
They don't know anything about demand gen, but they are not creating any kind of content. You can just see things that are missing. And so I would typically have that kind of conversation up front with the CEO saying, I can start to see some here. I don't know for sure. I'll do my assessment. We'll see.
hmm
But and invariably, again, this is another pattern. Do you have the right marketing person? Do you have anybody in customer success? Do you have a customer success function?
hmm
Some people don't even have that yet at this stage. And if they do they have the right person? Do you have the right sales manager? So many people put a manager in charge of a team of salespeople. And what they did is they promoted somebody who was an excellent salesperson to be the manager, but maybe they're not the best manager. They were great as a salesperson. So that has happened. I've seen that many times,
hmm
had to deal with that. Really, if companies do that, it can be very expensive because
mm
you lost out on all the revenue that person could have
right
still been bringing in as a salesperson. They're trying their best to be the manager, but it's not the right role for them. Or you could try and see if you could coach them, but sometimes you have to make those switches, and that will make a difference in your metrics, big
Yeah,
time.
yeah, I can see that for sure. One of the things that comes to mind as I hear you talk about this is the word or the phrase pattern recognition. In other words, you've done this enough where you're recognizing patterns. And when you recognize patterns, you're able to make improvements and probably at a more rapid pace than, frankly, that first time sales manager, as an example, right? Or someone who just
Yes.
hasn't really seen the movie enough, if you will, right? So you've seen these pattern recognition. Here's the question is, let's say, for instance, I'm a CRO listening to this right now, and I'm considering doing fractional CRO work, or maybe I want to maneuver my way into an operating partner role at
Mm.
a private equity firm. Where's the bridge? In other words, how do I get on the off ramp, so to speak, towards where Sherri Sklar is right now? Is it working for a Portco company? Is that necessary in your eyes, or like impressing them? Of course, it helps, but tell me about what your thoughts are when you think about all those things.
So let me just clarify. Are you saying if somebody is a CRO today and they want to be an operating partner, or is the question they're a CRO and they're trying to decide whether they want to be a full-time or a fractional? Which one is it?
Good,
Or
good,
both?
good question. Let's kind of both, but let's address the move from operating partner to I'm sorry, CRO to operating partner.
Okay.
How do they
Yeah.
get there if they want to get there?
All right. So first things first. First, we need to understand that the operating partner role is not an operating role.
hmm
Okay. So
hmm
you need to understand that you have to have. So you got to have. It's part really understanding the role of being an operator,
hmm
and part consultant type coach. Someone who's a really good guide,
hmm
mentor. So it could translate. If you're a great CRO, you should translate.
hmm
But here's the other thing: you need to be able to have multiple failures and multiple successes under your belt to be able to jump into an operating partner role. You
hmm
can't you can't just be an operating partner after being a CRO once. I don't think. I think it doesn't translate. It's not like a one size fits all approach. You have to be very nimble and resilient, and you're going to be going into a variety of different situations, perhaps different industries, different, customer sets. You have to be comfortable in multiple different environments, and your go-to-market strategy might be very different from one portfolio company to another. And you have to be, very able, very nimble in being able to come up with different approaches.
Hmm.
So how do you get ready to be an operating partner is get multiple stints as being a CRO.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
I think CRO is the right role, by the way, if you want to be in go to market, because you're overseeing the whole lifespan of a customer from, and leveraging marketing, sales, and customer success and rev ops and understanding the interrelationships with product and technology. So multiple stints, multiple experiences, lots of failure, lots of success. And also be comfortable with being a consultant. So that's different. It is a little bit different. So I think, some of the optimal qualities of some of us and the team at Edison is a lot of us have been playing all these different types of roles. I mean, we've been the CRO, we've been the CMO, we've been the head of product, the CEOs of companies
Hmm.
multiple times.
Hmm.
And it just gives you a whole reservoir of information and tools and techniques that you can use at any given point in time. So you have to be like really nimble. Like I kind of feel like it's like that ninja, on the in the Benihanas, that they're
Yeah.
dicing up a million things, and you're just like you can like serve it up, but in different ways for different portfolio companies based on their needs.
So, and this kind of goes towards the fractional versus, operating partner kind of situation, which is how do you, like, what's your level of involvement with the portfolio companies? If you have, I don't know how to break it up in terms of if you want to look at it in hours, you want to look at it in terms of, I don't even know, like just
Yeah.
meeting functions. Like, what does it look like? And is it different as your level of involvement as a, let's call it a fractional CRO, which is obviously different from the operating partner role?
So let me first clarify that I think the fractional CRO is it is a CRO.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
fractional CRO is a
Mhm.
CRO. So
Yep.
you're doing everything a CRO would do. It's just you're doing it on a fractional basis. Maybe
Mhm.
somebody brought you in as like, 2 or 3 days a week or
Mhm.
20 hours, 30 hours. And it's so interesting because almost every single fractional role I took,
Mhm.
it always ended up somehow as full time. It
Mhm.
just, the CEO would realize that, oh my God, we have so much we have to do. And you
Mhm.
can't get it done in 20, they want to pay me for 20 hours a week,
Right.
but they want full time. And that's happened many times.
Right.
So it's not like you're doing less as
Okay.
a fractional, you're doing the job.
And let me ask you this then, as it pertains to that, because here's my perception of it from the fractional
Yeah.
CRO's perspective, as it pertains to even looking at an operator is operating partner, which is that, and maybe you just answered the question, which is that if I'm a fractional CRO, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to be working with 5 companies or 4 companies or whatever. I'm going to be working with multiple companies, meaning that I'm only going to be there's only so many hours in a
Right.
week where I can actually serve that company. And so, how does that work? But to your point, it sounds to me like there's mission creep, I guess you will, or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
where all of a sudden it goes from
You don't get a lot of sleep.
right, right,
You don't get a lot of sleep.
yeah,
You're right. You're right, Jason.
yeah,
There's only so much you can do in a given week.
mm-hmm,
And I have learned, to really, you have to, what's the word? Compartmentalize and, carve out the time.
mm-hmm,
Um, and be upfront and honest with everybody too. I've had to
mm-hmm,
tell CEO one that, yeah, I only have 2 days a week for you, but
mm-hmm,
know that I have some other, and I will play with different times. If you need me at a particular time and I'm already with another customer, a
mm-hmm.
client of mine, I will work with you on that, that type of thing. So it's a crazy life. It is when you kind of carve it up that way.
Yeah,
But, you know, it does get to the point. I've seen this like a million times. They end up wanting more and more. So you end up saying, okay, start off with 2 days a week, then it's 3 days a week, then it's like 5 days a week,
Mm.
which is fine. It's a good thing because
Yeah.
that means that they see the value and they want it and they want it now.
Mhm. Right.
uh,
Right.
so and and then you started off with the question about the operating partner.
Yeah.
And what's the involvement of the operating partner? So, different companies have different approaches. Some PE firms are full time, some are part time.
Hmm.
I'm part time right now
Hmm.
with Edison, so I could do all this, and I love that because it keeps me fresh. Like
Hmm.
I'm really very fresh with what I know in terms of
Hmm.
CRO world,
Hmm.
and running revenue. But the kind of activities that we operating partners get involved with is, right from the very get go, we're helping sell. We're helping to sell potential entrepreneurs on why they should bring in Edison as their partner. So
Right.
selling, due diligence. We're doing the due diligence. We're helping Edison figure out, who should we be investing in. So we'll do an assessment. All the assessment work that I do as a CRO, it applies to the assessment. And we have our own methodology and our own process for assessing, inside Edison. We have our own framework.
Hmm.
And so we do due diligence. We do, after we invest, we help the companies, but we come up with a 180-day plan, like a first 180 days. What are you going to do first? What's the strategy? What are the growth levers that we should be focusing on? What's the priority? And then after the first 180 days are done, we do another second 180-day plan, and we keep going. We're involved throughout the life of the relationship with the portfolio. We're there for questions. A lot of times I'll get calls saying, Sherri, do you have a template for this? Or do you have guidelines for this? Can you help me hire somebody? I get so involved in helping people hire people,
Hmm.
by the way.
Hmm.
I help with them with recruiting process and checklists, and helping them make decisions between candidates. I interview people for them. So we're really like an extension of their team in many respects, and you have to be their biggest advocates. I mean, I really believe in all of our portfolio companies, so I got to be adept at being able to tell the story just like anyone that works in their company, and I'm
Hmm.
like, selling them. So
Yeah, like another evangelist, if you will,
yeah,
for
it's another one. I'm a cheerleader for them. Really,
yeah,
it's
that's right.
fun.
So let me ask you this then: how do you measure your success, or does Edison sort of look at it in a matrix way to say, here's what we're hoping to get out of the portfolio companies that you are, advising? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, just like you're a CRO,
Mm-hmm.
you will be measured on key metrics,
Mm-hmm.
that you really want to see happen. And it just depends. What's the key metrics? What's the priorities, as we talked about earlier? Is it growth? Is it bookings? Is it, NRR? Is it, reducing churn? What is the focus? And so, my value, in terms of, what is an operating partner? How do you assess the value? It's based on, the kind of enterprise value that ends up happening as a result of there's a direct correlation really between operating partner involvement and enterprise value. So
Mm-hmm.
you'll see it in bookings growth and new logos and, retention numbers and things like that. There'll be changes that you will see positive,
Let
hopefully.
me, yeah, positively. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this: like, what as you look at that and think about that, is there a couple of levers that you think that if you get those pulled right, I guess, that you can impact the results in a positive way? You're like, if I can do this, if I can do this, and I can do this, if I can just do this with my portfolio companies, we will be successful.
You know, it's great question. I mean, it comes back to the patterns. It comes back to the assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Every company is going to be a little different, but different
Mm-hmm.
patterns. You know where their needs are. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, you can tell when you first do due diligence, and you can start to see, they don't have enough pipeline. They don't have their forecast is all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Or Or, they've got too much emphasis on services and they're producing this incredible software. We got to flip the switch. Instead of
Yeah.
it being 75% services, it should be 75% software. How do we do this? How do we get more new logos in? Well, are the sales reps focused on new logos, hunters and farmers? Are they doing the whole full, ball of wax?
Yeah.
Or are you focusing them, so that those are the strategic questions. You even before you even talk about sales strategy and sales organization, go back and talk about the market. Where's the TAM? Where's your focus? What's
Mhm.
your goal? What are the segments that you should be going after, and
Mhm.
prioritize those segments? And do
Mhm.
you leverage sales? Do you leverage channels and partnerships? Do you leverage marketing, or you know, a whole recipe that you concoct of all of those things?
Yeah. I'm going to go back to something that's near and dear to my heart, which of course is recruiting and
Yeah.
and hiring. How and we'll take CROs and VPs of sales, let's just say as a function. How are you evaluating the sales talent, sales leaders for your portfolio companies? What are the things that you look for in them?
You're talking about like at the C level?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're helping them hire folks, how are you evaluating in deciding? Okay, these are the folks that really are going to help us move the needle.
Um, Great question. I think, it really comes down to, does this person have a command on not just gut feel? It used to be like, years ago, people would run revenue with gut feel and people would wing it. We're looking for people that really, they have a system, they have a playbook. Maybe it's not a playbook. Maybe it's a bunch of checklists that can operationalize and quickly help their team really be powerful.
Mhm.
But looking for people that have systems and process and understand data and know how to pull it all together,
Mhm.
and to work cross functionally so that you have common goals, common metrics, and really addressing some of the key issues in top of funnel, mid funnel, close rates, you know, um, just just looking for that depth of experience and knowing how to pull it all together. And
Mhm.
there are key questions, there are key things that you want to ask for to make sure that that they have that kind of skill.
In in listening to that, my hunch, I guess, tells me that if you can get that right, in other words, if you can get that hire right, that's really going to help you with what your goals are in terms of how well that the commercial value of that company is going to do, right? Because you can get that CRO, that right CRO you can work with, that sort of understands how to do all the things that you just said, makes your job a lot easier, right? Because
Yeah,
right, yeah.
it does. And I would also say it has to have the right mix of strategy and execution.
Mm,
Um, so many times you get people that, or CEOs who maybe don't know any better, they'll hire somebody, they'll call them a CRO,
yeah,
but really they're a VP of sales.
yes,
Because and it's some, and some, I mean, if you don't know any better you wouldn't know.
yep.
But it's important to think strategy. Okay, where do we want to be in 3 years? Back up from there. What do we have to put in place to be able to get there?
Hmm.
And it's, yes, it should come, there should be a coordinated effort with the CEO. There could be OKRs and, KPIs that really the whole company gets woven together to support.
Hmm.
But the revenue leader should have their own sense of strategic planning and understanding the market and what's the best mix of go-to-market strategies to actually maximize revenue and attainment, retention, really going for key metrics
Hmm.
that, and you've got to ask these people, what have they done before to actually make a difference in those types of metrics in other situations,
Yes.
if it's important to you. So you got to ask for that.
Well, can I ask about compensation?
Of
Like,
course, you can ask about compensation.
okay, fantastic. How are operating partners generally compensated?
So That again also
Mhm.
depends on the PE firm. So some do full-time work, some do part-time work.
Mhm.
Um, some, do, it's like, can be like a 1099, because
Yep.
you're
Yep.
like, it's kind of like, I'm like a fractional, I'm like part-time.
Mhm.
But also, a lot of a lot of firms could set up the whole value creation platform as a cost center and they charge out to their portfolio
Okay.
companies. We don't do that at
Okay.
Edison. That's why we call it the edge.
Okay.
What we've got, what we give to our portfolio companies is like second to none. But, the thing is what doesn't vary is I think, operating partners, I don't know
Mhm.
about everybody, but from what I've heard from talking to some others, everybody who's an operating partner does get to participate in what's called, the carry, you know.
Mhm.
So it's that portion of the firm's profits at the end of the day that you get to participate in. And it kind of, I like it because it gets you all aligned
Mhm.
on maximizing profitability and growth.
Mhm.
So I really love that. And there's some, I think that's what motivates a lot of people, the carry.
Interesting. Much like the commission, same letter. See, with
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
with a CRO, right?
Commission.
Now, is that carry paid out annually? Is it paid out like what are the intervals that the carry is paid out?
I
What is
don't
it?
know how other firms do it. I think there's a certain hold period. There's we're growing and
Mhm.
developing these portfolio companies to reach a certain point for exit, and
Mhm.
I think that's when it happens. Actually, I haven't gotten to that point yet. I just started a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and but I'm excited to. I think that's really how it works. Is you get to a certain point where either the fund expires or I still have to find out
Yeah, of
more about
course.
that, but I think that's really what it is.
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. Carry day sounds like a sounds like
Yeah,
a
could be.
we should
Sounds like
coin
it
that
could be a
phrase.
nightmare, but it's not. What is
Yeah.
that movie? Carry something.
Yeah. I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the easy part now, where I ask you the rapid fire five, ask you five
Are we
questions?
there yet? We're at the rapid fire. Okay. I had a feeling you were going to get there. Yes, please. Go for it.
All right, here we go. Question number one. What motivates you?
So I always go back to, what's my why?
Hmm.
And my why, it keeps coming down to I love to bring out the extraordinary in people.
Okay.
That is a passion. So it's what motivates me is if I could do that, it is one of the best things I do in my job. Love doing that. A tangent of that is doing something meaningful. It's doing something meaningful for another person or doing something meaningful in the world. So the last company I worked with, I was helping them. Their mission was to help um, create what's called a circular economy, but basically getting rid of plastic off the Earth's oceans or nearby the Earth's oceans, and at the same time improving, uh, getting people to emerge out of poverty.
Wow.
That mission got me so jazzed and so fired up. That's motivating. So I want to help the world solve problems like that over and over again. That's one thing that motivates me. The other thing that motivates me, and I'm not ashamed to say it's been a salesperson my whole life. I love selling, but it's really, I love to win. I love to win. So it's fun for me. It's a challenge. Anytime there's a challenge, if there's a turnaround or, it's like, the numbers are so daunting when you first get there and you go, oh my God, how are we going to make this happen? But I love those situations. That's motivating.
I love it. That's fantastic. For sure. For sure. Name a big goal you have right now, and when would you
Oh,
like to accomplish it?
okay. That's easy. My goal is, and I did start this before the pandemic. I had a show called the CEO Morning Jolt, and it was interviewing CEOs and investors and really bringing some insight into, how do you grow? Like, what are the things that you look for growth?
Hmm.
Then the pandemic hit and everybody got tired of Zoom, and I, dropped it.
Hmm.
So my next thing is I want to start a podcast like you did. I just told you this morning or a little bit
Yep.
earlier.
Yep.
And I have a thought about it. So I might be coming to you for some coaching on this, some advice, so professionally, I want to do this podcast, something like in the next 90 days.
Awesome.
And personally, I think it's really still all about, you know, um, I've really done a lot of work recently in terms of making sure I do a lot of mental prep and inward thinking so that I can be the best I can be. I still have to work on sleep, exercise. Like I used to be a huge athlete. I used to exercise every day. I'm not doing that yet, so I have to be open and honest and vulnerable here, but that is really what I have to do is and what I want to do is personal goal is get back to that.
You alluded to maybe mindfulness and meditation. Have you started
Yeah.
that, or do you do that? Yeah.
I I've done that since I was 15. I did transcendental meditation since I was 15. But I've done something recently. I've hired a coach actually. I invested in myself.
Hmm.
First time I've done that in my life. I figured like
Hmm.
professional athletes have a coach. Why don't I have a coach?
Yeah. Right.
And this coach has been amazing to me, has helped me with some of these best practices. And every day I do exercises in the morning to center myself, deep breathing, meditating, visualizing. Um, you know, I've got exercise goals. I don't always do that. I
Hmm.
should, but I
Hmm.
love that. And I actually put myself in the future
Hmm.
and I think backwards. And it's funny. I do this anyway in my work. It's like I always help people get your future goal and work backwards. But for myself, I'm trying to do that also.
Oh man, that's fascinating. I feel like we could have a whole nother show about that
A
because
whole other thing on future
yeah,
self.
there is. There's so many things there and about transcendental meditation and just all that stuff. Quite amazing. Wow. Okay.
Yes,
Cool. What's your most preferred way to learn new information to stay sharp?
I love reading. I'm a big
Mhm.
reader, and I love podcasts. I love listening. Like your podcast is fascinating,
Thank you.
um, and I love interactions with other people professionally, whether it's just networking and learning from other people is the best way. I love talking about issues and helping people. I tend to be a real giver. I'd like to help people and I don't expect anything back, but I do invariably get a lot back.
Right.
So I learn from that tremendously, but I'm doing a lot of all those different things, and that's the best way for me to learn.
I love it.
Yep.
All right. Who's your favorite character of all time?
A character in a book or a movie or
Book, movie, TV show, person down the street, doesn't matter. Who's your who do you think of when you say my favorite character?
well, okay, it sounds cheesy, but it's my mom and dad. I can't help but say that. They are the
Okay.
most amazing role models. I was so fortunate to have them. My
Mhm.
dad was a guru in his field. He was well known. They're both passed, so I can
Mhm.
talk in the past.
Mhm.
Well known, and I do think of him a lot. Every
Wow.
time I think of making decisions of what I'm going to do, I think what he would do. And my mother as well, who is an amazing people person. But yeah, it's got to be them,
Wow.
hands
Wow.
down them. Great role
That's amazing.
models.
Well, it sounds like they've created an amazing character in their own story,
Thank you.
which I think
No, they
is
were. Uh, my dad, he won like I don't know, was it the silver and bronze medal in World War II? He
wow.
saved like 3,000 people based on strategies. He had very good instincts, and he used to tell, I don't know, whatever the general was over there, he saved 3,000 soldiers from just the strategy that he came up with. And I thought, this is, and he was like that in his entire career. He was he was the first person in 1964, this is going way back in
Yep.
Arkansas, to open up the tea room to all people of all races. That was
Wow.
the first time in the South, in the deep South. And he stood up to a lot of people for that. But you know what? He's like, that's the genuine integrity that he had as a person.
Right. Yeah. It was like nothing for him. It was like, well, of course I'm gonna. This is a no brainer. I'm going to do this because this is who I
Yeah.
am in the
He was a
fabric.
pretty tough guy. He was a pretty tough guy. And he, as tough as he was a real human being. So
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Oh man, so inspirational.
it
Thanks for
is.
sharing. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Last question, and then there's a bonus question, which I don't know if I told you about, but anyways, it will
What's
be on
that?
its way. All right, no, last question.
What's
What's
the
your
surprise?
favorite? What's your favorite thing to do when you aren't working?
Oh, that's easy. I love being with my family. There's just, I've got a 23-year-old daughter.
Mm,
I mean, it's just yesterday she was 2 and just like
yeah,
shot up. She is absolutely an amazing human being. I'm so grateful and I love spending time with her. We're very, very close. And, my husband, the three of us, we do a lot of great things together. We have a lot of fun, and that's my favorite thing to do. We Broadway plays and movies, and analyzing The Bachelor and stupid things, But downtime like that, and also we love to travel.
I love it. That is
Yeah,
awesome. That
yeah.
is awesome. All right, here is your bonus question from my last guest, and then I'm going to ask you to share a question that you would like for me to ask my next guest. Okay.
Okay, you got it.
So there's actually two guests actually in my last episode, which was a first from Jason and Scott. So this is basically what they riffed about. They said you have a team of pretty decent performers and a team of talented people who are struggling, basically, pretty much. Which team would you want, and which one do you think you could scale a business with?
Team decent performers. What would you say they're like B level?
Yeah, let's go. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
let's go with
And a
that. And then
team of talented, but what?
historically talented, but they're struggling currently.
Um, it's indicative. Okay, so I would say, okay, I've had many situations. This is a great question. Okay, I have many situations where I would come into a company, and the CEO would actually say to me, "Sherri, you're going to have to fire this person."
Mm,
They would tell me that coming into the door.
yeah.
You're going to have to fire this person. You're going to have to get rid of this team. It was always like a turnaround, and I would never agree to it up front. I always wanted to assess my
Mm,
own way
mm,
whether that was needed or not.
mm,
So, the B player and the talented player that's all over the place, that's indicative to me that they didn't have a good leader or they didn't have good coaching.
mm,
Something was missing.
mm,
And
mm,
I can tell you that not every time it is. There could be a reason. Maybe they really are mediocre and they're, you got to test and see how curious are they? Are they, go getters? Are they persistent? Are they relentless? Are they,
mhm,
do they have, so you have to do your own assessment.
mm,
Don't just, throw somebody out just because the CEO told you to, even though they might be right. You just have
mhm,
to find out for yourself. And I've had
mm,
many situations where I've had that. They told me you have to get rid of this person. And then I found out that, you know what, they just didn't have the right kind of coaching. And I would
mm,
sit there and I would coach them week in, week out, one on ones, went on sales calls with them, whatever it was, and take some people that were at the bottom of the rung and got them to like number one, number
wow,
two in the whole organization. It's just,
wow,
you got to be a good coach. So the answer to that question is both. You've got, both could be very worthwhile to work with. They could be wonderful. Don't
mm.
throw them out yet. Just start
Yet,
and,
yeah.
dig in, understand who they are, see if you can coach them. By the way, if they're not coachable, you got to get rid of them. Sorry.
Right,
I don't
right.
mean to be so. There are situations where somebody's like, there's no way, like, if they really don't understand how to do an enterprise sale. They go in and they single thread and they don't, understand anything you're trying to tell them about how to multi-thread and how to,
Hmm.
use action plans or whatever it is. If they're not going to follow your coaching, they're not going to be good to work with. So you do have to get rid of those types of individuals.
Right. Regardless of whether they're historically super talented or B players right now, if they're not going to listen to the coaching, they got to go.
Absolutely right. Oh, critical. And, they may have an ego. They may not be,
Right.
other members of the team may say, God, just do something, get rid of this person, even if they think they're so great.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Seen that many times.
Yeah.
What question would you like for me to ask my next guest? It can be business
Okay.
related, could be personal, could be anything.
I think a great meaty question
Hmm.
is to ask the next person, how do they build a great sales culture?
I love that.
And there's
Yes.
so many things that go into that, people are going to, I mean, it might be a question that, people talk about all the time. And, we talk about it a lot, but it never gets old.
That's right.
Because if you have a poor sales culture, I'm not going to answer it, I guess, but if you have a poor sales culture, it really ruins everything. And,
Yeah.
people feel intimidated or fearful or just not able to contribute their own. They don't feel like they're part of something special. So how do you get the best out of people? Again, this goes back to my why. How do you bring out the extraordinary in people? Culture is
Mhm.
critical for that. So ask your next guest that question. It's going to be a meaty conversation.
How do you, I mean, that can be the whole conversation. How do you build a great sales culture? I might have to bring you back for part two
Uh,
on that. Maybe
I would
after
be
you.
delighted. I love that question. So that's why I asked it.
Absolutely. Cool. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
How can folks reach out to you, Sherri, to say thank you? Perhaps maybe they need a CRO for their company, or they just want
Right.
advice, or any of that stuff. What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I think the best way would probably be LinkedIn. I do check it.
Mhm.
It's probably easier for me to see something pop up there
Mhm.
than email because the emails are crazy. Just
Yeah.
too many emails. But yeah, so LinkedIn.
Sherri with an I. And it'll be in the show notes, of course, but
Right.
Sherri, Sklar, Sklar. And by the way, I'm a testament, or this conversation, a relationship that I've built with Sherri is a testament that she does respond to her emails, because that's how I got her attention. I will say, selfishly, maybe, but when you reach out to her, maybe in the subject line, put "I heard you on the Goats of Growth," and you'll get special
That will
attention.
make a difference. It does. And
There
you
you
had
go.
the right technique, my friend. You knew how to get there's something about the way you said that. And I looked at it and go, okay, I got to reach back out to this guy. So good job.
Thank you. Pattern recognition. I figured out a pattern.
Good.
Sherri Sklar, thank you for being on the Goats of Growth.
Thanks for having me, Jason. It was fun.
Goodbye, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, and tell a friend, colleague, and all that wonderful stuff about the Goats of Growth. Thank you.